You know how it's morally wrong to be involved in any sexual relationship with a family member? It's medically wrong. I can't help to think that this is what's happened with Canon EOS RP, or as some people call it, EOS Rest in Peace. Every time I look at the details of this camera, all I keep seeing is SL2, the 200D, the M50, and the 60 Mark II. Don't get me wrong, these three cameras, they're great in so many different ways. Although with the limitations, they've got their own strength. And you would think that Canon trying to combine these three cameras would make a dynamite or make something quite great. This channel is called 10 Things I Like About, but to be brutally honest, I'm really struggling to find 10 things I like about this camera. So let's look at what people have been praising this camera for. They've been really praising it for its compact size, especially when compared to the new 28-70 f2 lens. Amazing lens, don't get me wrong. But if Canon's trying to really say that we have made a really compact mirrorless camera, don't be fooled, because this is Sony's arena. This is where Sony thrives. I'm not making this up. So if we look at the size of the Canon EOS RP, it's 5.2 inches long. Sony A7 III is 5 inches long. Canon EOS RP, it's 3.3 inches tall. Sony A7 III is 3.8 inches tall. Canon EOS RP again is deep by 2.8 inches, whilst Sony A7 III is deep by 2.9 inches. How is this a compact, well, the most compact mirrorless camera, if it's been done time after time after time by Sony? The Sony A7 II, slightly smaller in dimension compared to the A7 III. A7 series, A7R2, A7S, A7S2. So in the department of having a small mirrorless body as a full frame, Canon doesn't even come close to Sony at all. Now, another thing, they say to be able to launch this camera at such a low price, they had to reduce the form factor, which we've just previously talked about, and remove some features. Then again, I kept looking at camera that are great for under $1,300, which is the rough price that the EOS RP is going to be selling for. And I remembered Sony A7 II, one of my favorite full frame cameras from Sony, not praised for a lot of its strength. At the moment, the camera is under $1,000. You could even get it at $813 on Amazon right now. If you go to secondhand camera stores, you could get this camera easily for $500, $600. Yet, in my opinion, it has way more strength than the EOS RP. You look at the Fujifilm XT-3, it's only $99 more expensive than this Canon EOS RP. And when you check a lot of the reviews on YouTube for the XT3, you will notice that the XT3 blows this Canon RIP out of the waters, only for $99 more. I will even go as far as two APS-C cameras, the Sony A6500, which you could get around the $1,000 mark, secondhand even lower. Even the not so loved Sony A6400 makes this Canon EOS RIP look like a toy, unfortunately. So the argument of, yes, Canon has had to make some compromises from the EOS R, they've had to reduce the form factor of the camera, which means they've had to lose quality. That is utter rubbish, because this is what Sony has been constantly doing. Small form factor, great features. Sometimes not the best of the best features, it's like they're holding out on something, but nonetheless, great feature. Who is this camera for? The Canon EOS RP. When I started out in photography and videography, I purchased the Canon SL1. I'm not a fanboy of any camera company whatsoever, but part of me always wants Canon to succeed, because I enjoyed using the SL1, and I actually did use it for professional paid job, even though most people wouldn't think of it being usable for that. In the UK, I got that camera for, I think, less than £200. And I really pushed this camera to its limits. I had really good glasses on it, so I guess it really gave me a lot more out of the camera. Anytime I needed something full frame, I would hire out a 5D Mark II, a 6D, or a 5D Mark III. Again, great cameras in their own rights. 2019, probably not up to standard. So you would think as a company you want to keep progressing in your release. And that hasn't happened with Canon EOS RIP in this case. It's almost like, ooh, we want the EOS R to look really great, so let's make a rubbish or less interesting version of that camera, so the EOS R will be praised. A camera over the $3,000 mark as crippling feature compared to the Sony A7 III. Again, one of the reasons why the Chinese mobile phone industry is booming right now is they saw something in Apple. People loved the simplicity in the design. They loved the hype around Apple. They started creating phones to mimic the Apple iPhone. People were telling them that, yes, you're just a copycat, to the point where they now started innovating. Sony has been releasing the mirrorless cameras for God knows how many years now. A lot of the bigger camera companies never paid attention. Now that you've seen the track record of how you should actually create cameras and the level of innovation that should be in it, you would expect that Canon would look at this and be like, ooh, let's try to beat the Sony system. Let's try to win Sony's fan base to Canon. I love Canon lenses. I don't think any lens company can match the lens quality and the collections at the moment, but that alone will not be the selling point. I use Sony now, and I adapt Canon lenses. Canon can't say they can hold me down with the lenses on the camera because I've adapted. If I was to move to another camera, I'll most likely adapt my lenses again. I don't believe in the brand new lens hype that goes on the internet. But back to the EOS RP, RIP, they've crippled the video, removing 24p. Like, really now? Autofocus system looks... You might as well just use manual, really. They're touting it's a high megapixel count, but megapixel isn't everything when it comes to photography. The battery, crippled. In my mind, I'm really feeling like this is Canon SL2, M50, 62 with so many features removed. This camera is not for families because there's no family that's going to be interested in a full frame camera unless you're like a really big hobbyist. It's definitely not for professionals. And I'm really starting to get concerned if this camera is aimed at amateurs, because like I mentioned earlier, there are cheaper cameras that can give you a bit more than this camera. If you're a fanboy, fangirl, yes, every camera from Canon is going to blow your mind out of the waters. So probably this camera is for you. If you're really swimming in cash and you just literally like to collect cameras, this camera is for you. Why? You've got a big shelf with hundreds of other camera systems, and this is just another camera to have on your shelf. Go for it. When you do, give us a hands-on review. Let's see how it is. But if you're a professional with, getting paid work, why are you looking at this camera? Don't even bother. If you're a vlogger, this is too expensive for a vlogging camera. If you're an amateur trying to learn your way around the camera system, or you've not had any paid work yet, this is too expensive of an investment, 1,300 or so just for the body only. Again, as mentioned earlier, there are cheaper cameras to start off with. Family camera? Probably not. It's got the menu prompting system as the SL1, SL2, but again, probably not a family camera because you're going to be buying expensive lenses to go with it. So it's a camera that looks like a professional camera, but it's got less features than a family camera. Anyways, this release really confused me quite a lot. I have tried to look at other reviews out there. A lot of people share the same sentiment. I tried my best to look for the 10 things I really like about the camera. I could probably say having a flip out screen is a positive. Go Canon! But that isn't enough to spend $1,300. What do you think about this release? Should it have even happened at all? What is Canon thinking? And who do you think this camera might be for? Because I myself am actually clueless on who this camera is targeted as. Anyways, it's Samuel from 10 Things I Like. But for once, I couldn't find 10 things I like about this camera. Anyways, it would be nice to see what you think about this camera release. Speak soon and peace.